Thank you. We move now to Deputy Boyd Barrett.
Taoiseach, the images of people burning alive at Alaska Hospital and in a tent camp beside that hospital are possibly the most horrific, stomach-churning, terrifying images of this horrific year of genocide by Israel against the people of Gaza. I suspect those images will probably be the lasting image in people's minds of the utter horror that Israel is inflicting on the people of Gaza, burning people alive in hospitals, in ICU beds, in tents, innocent people, like Shaban al-Dalou, like a falafel seller, a janitor, burning them alive. This same regime on Sunday killed 22 people in a school in Al-Nasurat, 22 and 80 injured in a school, repeatedly bombing a school. Over the weekend, there's evidence that Israel has been using white phosphorus, chemical weapons, in an area where innocent Lebanese people live and where the UN peacekeepers are present. They have threatened Irish troops. They have attacked UN bases. There's simply no atrocity Israel isn't willing to commit, and we're seeing this in front of our eyes. Now, the thing is, Taoiseach, that most likely the white phosphorus, the bombs that burn people alive in Gaza, the weapons that are being deployed to murder people in Gaza and now in Lebanon came from the United States. And some of them, and very possibly some of those that were used in these horrific atrocities and to commit this genocide, went through Irish airspace. And yet your government has done nothing to stop that. The Ditch reports that over the weekend, since the Israeli army pointed their tanks at our troops, 2 more flights have gone through Irish airspace carrying munitions to Israel to carry out their genocidal atrocities against the people of Gaza, and still you let it happen and do nothing about it. There were thousands of people, I was one of them, in Shannon Airport at the weekend, saying, why don't you stop this? And that you are complicit as long as you allow it to happen, and that you allow the US military to use Shannon, who are up to their necks in arming and supporting and giving succour to the crimes that Israel is committing. Why, when you were in the United States last week, did you not publicly condemn the United States in front of the world for giving the weapons to Israel to commit these genocidal atrocities? Why don't you now tell them that the US military are not welcome in Shannon Airport while they are arming a genocide to commit these atrocities? What are you going to do to stop munitions going to commit these atrocities and these massacres and these crimes go through Irish airspace? What are you going to do to stop the Irish Bank facilitating the sale of Israeli war bonds to finance the genocidal massacre that has been committed? You're speaking out of both sides of your mouth unless you do something on those issues, Taoiseach.
Taoiseach, please.
If we could measure empathy and compassion in decibels, I wouldn't win, and you'd win. But the reality is you don't have a monopoly in terms of your concern for the people of Palestine. You certainly don't have a monopoly in terms of your concern for our peacekeeping troops. Something I'm updated on several times a day. We're in constant contact with our peacekeepers, and keeping them safe is the #1 priority of this government, the #1 priority of the United Nations. And we work on it on a round-the-clock basis. Can I just make one point more broadly in relation, not in relation to anything Deputy Boyd Barrett said specifically, but in relation to the broader issue of being able to differentiate between the people of Israel and the policies pursued by the government of Netanyahu and many people who live in this country, people of the Jewish faith as well. I just think at a time of heightened concern, including from government condemnation of the actions of the Israeli government, I just do want to differentiate very clearly and let those people know that I can differentiate very clearly between the people of Israel and between the actions of the Netanyahu and the Netanyahu government. This is a government that's acting, Deputy Boyd Barrett. By any fair measure, it's acting. And I find it so peculiar that it's only when I engage with you that you suggest inaction. When I sit down with the Palestinian president, he thanks me for the actions we're taking on behalf of the Irish people. When I sit down with the Palestinian Prime Minister, he thanks me for the actions he's taking. When I spoke with the Prime Minister... Sorry, but I'm answering the charge. I'm answering the charge that you put on a constant basis. The charge that you put, shout, shout, shout and roar. While you're shouting and roaring... while you're shouting and roaring, we're acting. We're acting. And the President of Palestine knows it. The Ambassador, now the cacophony.
Will you let the Taoiseach respond?
Thank you.
He won't respond. He's answering everything but the question.
No, I'll answer the questions exactly, but I'll answer them as I see fit.
There was nobody over here shouting while you were speaking. So please, little courtesy.
I'm not going to Ceann Comhairle accept the charge that this government is not taking action in relation to calling out breaches of international law, standing up for human rights, supporting the people of Palestine, recognising the state of Palestine, and supporting our peacekeepers. And quite frankly, I find it stomach-churning to hear you suggest that we don't do that, because that's absolutely what we do, and we're taking more actions. And I made very clear in the constructive contribution from Deputy Batchik, the steps that we now intend to take in working with the opposition to see if we can do more in relation to trade on the occupied territories. In relation to the issue regarding munitions, also, by the way, you also seem to have this view as to what I did and didn't say in the United States. I mean, I didn't look left and right, but I didn't see you beside me. I spoke to the President of the United States for about 58 minutes. I know exactly what I spoke to the President of the United States about. The President of the United States knows exactly what Ireland views in relation to this. All levers at all disposal should be used, and all countries should not provide weapons to Israel. Okay?
Deputy,
weapons to Israel. You voted this House to try and stop me going to even have a conversation.
Did you ask him to stop sending weapons?
They voted.
Did you ask him to stop sending weapons? Did you ask him to stop sending weapons? Answer the question, which you've been dodging from the media.
Deputy.
I'd love to answer it. I'd love to answer it.
Taoiseach, sorry.
Sorry, apologies.
No role in asking any questions. The leader of your group is asking the question. And do your leader, as well as everybody else, the courtesy of listening to the reply.
The answer is very clear. The people over there voted in this House last week to suggest I shouldn't go to the United States of America. They now want to critique what I said in the United States of America. If it was up to you, I wouldn't have been able to have a conversation. I made the point to President Biden that I make in public and private, all countries should use all levers to bring about a ceasefire, and that includes the issue of weapons. I made that very clear. In relation to munitions, we're very clear as to what can and can't happen over Irish airspace, and it's expressly prohibited for civilian aircraft to carry munitions of war in Irish sovereign territory without being granted exemptions to do so by the Minister for Transport, and no such exemptions have been granted.
Thank you. Deputy Boyd Barrett.
Last November, we brought a motion in here calling on you to instigate action for genocide against Israel. You voted against it. In October of last year, we brought a motion in here asking you to put in sanctions on Israel as they commenced that genocide. You voted against it. Before any of this started, we asked you to publicly support the demands of Amnesty International in calling for targeted sanctions against Israel for illegal occupation and apartheid. You refused to do it. You've been dragged kicking and screaming all the way. You've blocked the Occupied Territories Bill since 2018, and now, because there are tens of thousands of people on the streets and we are seeing genocide unfold in front of our eyes, you're thinking about looking again at the Occupied Territories Bill, but you continue to allow the US military to go through Shannon when that government is arming the Israeli state to commit genocide. Under the Genocide Convention, as I pointed out to you and your government last November, we are obliged as signatories to do everything in our power to deter even the possibility of a genocide. You haven't done anything to try and deter the possibility. That was why the Genocide Convention was developed after the Holocaust. And we have done nothing to discharge our obligations to actually deter the prevention of a genocide when weapons going through Irish airspace to commit that genocide are going through our airspace, and a military machine is using our airport that is up to its neck in Israel's genocidal crimes. When are you going to do something about any of these things?
And when are you going to stop distorting the record of this government? And I know what you do. You'll put up the little clip and you'll cut it and you'll show how you shouted at the Taoiseach and said we're doing nothing for the people of Palestine.
You never put up clips, do you not?
What I say to the people watching those clips, what I say to the people watching those clips is know this. This country is leading at a European level in terms of standing up for Palestine, standing up for international law, standing up for human rights. This is a country that is now going to take further action in relation to it. And you know what, I think there's a little bit of you that's nearly frustrated and upset that we've offered to constructively work with the opposition in relation to how we move this forward. Because it's not for you, you're not the international court. The international law-based system doesn't work with you standing up saying this is the way it is. What we do is we follow the advisory opinions of the ICJ. And when the ICJ gave an advisory opinion in July, the three leaders of this coalition said, well, what does that mean in relation to the context of what this Parliament, this Dáil can do? We sought updated legal advice, and now we're proceeding on that basis. This issue, you seek to divide on every single issue. We are as outraged.
We seek action.
We are as outraged
Action.
in relation to human rights breaches in international law. But we also condemn all people who breach international law, and you still refuse to condemn Iran, and you don't believe that Israel has a right to live in peace and security.
Thank you.